Washington is just spectacular across the board. They're going to have to put that together, in this game.
You have a reputation, and we watched you make some really difficult calls over the course of your career and take some big chances that worked out.
I know where you're going.
As you're watching the game last week and listening to Brock's call, what are you thinking 4th and 1 inside your own 30 at the 29-yard line? What was running through your head as the offense came back out?
I wish you guys could see me right now because I've just put my head down on my desk and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's what I was doing.
Would you have done that?
In that moment, like it just kind of startled me. I'm like, funny? Because I'm thinking if they don't get this, over. Washington State, all they have to do is run a couple plays, kick the field goal, and it's over. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first reaction. This thing was going on. I'm like, hell yes. Of course you're going to do this. This is how they play. This is how you win big games. This is how you win championships. And so I was all behind it. But my first reaction was punt it away, play defense, maybe go into overtime. So I love the call. It was awesome. And that's how you have these special, like you don't have spectacular special seasons by playing it close to the vest. That I know.
So let me play this for you. We talked to Coach DeBoer yesterday, and I was truly blown away. First of all, he's great. Every time we've talked to him, I come away really impressed. But I really was blown away by what he said he did in that moment. Here's a little bit of our conversation with him about that call.
So I took a crack at trying to see if we can get them drawn off sides, and then what that also allowed us to do is get most of our offensive skill on the sideline and talk to them a little bit about the play call on 4th down, and also for me to just kind of think through one more quick time, what was kind of all at stake and what was the best choice to do. And
so that's him in that moment, not just running out the punt team to give it a shot with the fake, which I thought was great, but being able to think and process on multiple levels, to think about using that time to talk to his offense about the call. How impressive or how difficult is that to do in the moment, to kind of have your mind working in 3, 4, 5 different places at once?
Yeah, that's elite coaching right there. Like that's really what it's all about, of staying in the moment and making calculated, risky, and I wouldn't even say risky decision. I mean, in the big picture, it is risky, but like best decisions for your team. But I think what's so impressive about that is when you call a timeout and have a chance to think about it more, a lot of fear takes over and grips you. And you're like, maybe we're not going to do that. He went the opposite way. Brought him back over, thought about it again, and says, no, let's go ahead and do this. Let's take this risk. I know back in the day when we played in that Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma, there was no doubt in my mind when we tied it back up that we were going for 2. We go to the line of scrimmage, have the play, the Statue of Liberty. I can see how they're lined. It's a walk-in. They call timeout. We come back to the sideline, and now I'm like, hey, guys, are we sure we're good here? And one of our coaches is like, hell yes, we're good. Like the tone in his voice, like, don't even think about backing out of this. And so I know how that goes. So for him to go, we're rolling. After that timeout, him the one to be the decision maker to really say, let's take this chance. So impressive.
It's kind of a similar play, isn't it, that they ran? I mean, I obviously doesn't have quite the same Statue of Liberty, sort of ball handling, but isn't it a similar kind of play?
I think you're right, Salk. It really is. And but more like we were just handing it off. And I know that Penix was reading that. If that edge is soft and Dylan can pound that ball in there, let's go. And so I loved it, like giving him options. Like that's what the modern quarterbacks are doing on every single play. It's almost seldom do they say, just throw it here or just hand it off. There's always a read on it. So, I mean, money on the line, they put the ball in their 2 best. Also awesome coaching, right? Okay, Penix to read things. Who reads things better than in this country than Michael Penix? And then, it's not quite our first look. Give it to the best playmaker in the country in Roma Dunze.
Pretty awesome stuff. Last couple minutes here with Chris Petersen. So what have you seen with Penix? The numbers were unbelievably eye-popping the first 6 weeks of the season. Still the front runner for the Heisman through week 8 or 9. And then some bumps in the road. Is a crew offensively. I think he was battling through some sickness at Stanford and everything else. A little bumpy last week in the Apple Cup. Missed some throws that he normally has not missed through the first 11 weeks. What do you see in Penix's game, and how sharp does he have to be tomorrow night?
Yeah, he's going to have to be on, and he's going to have to play as well as he's played all season. Not better than he's played. Like, again, not going out and say, hey, you got to do something you're not capable of doing. But I think this offense is designed to be explosive, to make spectacular plays, and so he just got to go do that. But when I think about the game, I don't necessarily – and how they have to beat Oregon, there's two things that jump out into my mind. I don't necessarily think so much about Penix, although he does have to play really well. I think about those three receivers. Mm-hmm. Since, like, the middle of the season, having all three shown up together, injuries, etc. Rome has been consistent and spectacular, but Jalen Polk needs to play his best. Jalen McMillan now looks healthy. Like, to me, that was a big difference early on. Those guys were, like, rocking and rolling. And then they start playing better teams and all those type of things. And all three of them have not been that three-headed monster coming at you. And if that can happen, I kind of like their chances. The second thing I think has to happen, Oregon's run game. That's what I keep thinking about. Bo Nix is, playing as good as anybody in the country. And, he may be the Heisman front runner. But I think about tackling those running backs, Bucky Irvin, Jordan James. Defense is going to have their best game of the season tackling. And I think they've gotten better. I really do as the season's gone on, which is interesting and hard because you don't practice it nearly as much when you're this late in the season. But I think they're tackling it better than they have. But those two backs are legit. They break tackles. And so it's not going to be just like one-on-one tackles. Like, you're not going to tackle those guys consistently one-on-one. It's going to be that pack mentality, and they are going to have to play with great energy to get those backs down and not let them break a lot of tackles. Penix, in terms of the Heisman, you start looking at those things, Brock, you already know what's going to happen. Like, now you're paying attention to the wrong things. It's all about just winning the games. And I can't tell you how difficult that is. Like, they hear the noise. That award is important. It would be cool, but it just can't be about that. Or you're going to end up not playing as well as you can. And so let the chips fall. If he can elevate this team, I think this is going to be a Heisman game. Like, I think to win a Heisman trophy, you got to have a Heisman moment. Well, this is going to be a Heisman moment for either Bo Nix or Michael Penix, whoever can elevate their team to go win this, like, super important game to get into the college football playoffs.
You think your 2016 team could take this team?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting thought. Man, just in case there's some players that are listening on that 2016 team, heck yes, but that might be the game.
A pretty good game.
A good game. I'll tell you what. I mean, I just think what I really love, about this team is just like they win the tough, hard-fought games. And it's almost like they're getting penalized for that because it's not, there's not enough margin of victory. And I think about this as like, oh, I love this team. They just find a way, like, on these game-changing moments. Oregon State in the rain and the back shoulder throws, and Tuligasanoa blowing up the Utah, back in the end zone when they need a play. Like, they just find a way. There's just always something, and it's just so fun to watch. But when you're talking about the eye test and, like, winning awards and all these type of things, sometimes that hurts you. But I think it's going to help them to play in this game tomorrow night.
I gotta say, it's too bad you've lost your love of football. It just doesn't come through at all anymore. Talking to you, it's really kind of a shame what's happened to you since you left the coaching ranks.
Well, here's the cool thing. This is why I'm juiced up. This might be like one of the best games of football for me. Now, so I have not seen a college. I don't know how many college games I've seen live in person besides the ones I've coached in my career, because you're just always busy. So this is going to be – I'm going to this game, see this in person. And so I'm so excited to see this. But ironically, State is playing the next day in the same venue. Brock, I think you're calling the game against UNLV. And so I'm going to watch that too.
Oh, my gosh.
And so it's like, okay, this is like – I don't have to coach these teams, but I can sit there and root for them and be a fan.
Which of your children do you like more? Who will you be rooting for harder? Boise State. You don't have to answer that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to think of ways to get you in trouble. Do you hate Oregon? Do you hate them?
Stop it.
All right, we got to let him go. Coach, you're the best. Seriously, don't answer any of my dumb questions. I'm just kidding anyway. You have been spectacular. Thank you so much for doing this today. We can't wait for this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Brock, please muzzle him for the rest of the day on these ridiculous questions he's asking.
These are ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's enough. Mike, shut up. That's
15 years of it, Chris. 15 years of it.
All right, there you go. Coach
God
Petersen.
bless you.
Thank you, pal.
See what he says.
Okay.